My name is Sarah Tyndall and I am the chair for the Antelope Valley East Current STEM Network. Today you will hear from 4 individuals who will discuss how innovation is not only important for their particular industry, but also why it is important for education and the need to grow the next workforce. This morning we'll also have several opportunities to discuss the importance of innovation with your fellow attendees and share ideas. The Antelope Valley East Current STEM Network works to ensure that students within the region demonstrate the knowledge and skills necessary for success in education, work, and their daily lives. The mission of this organization continues to maintain a diverse, progressive, and innovative STEM workforce within the greater Antelope Valley through vital partnerships with educators and industry. This event today would not have been possible without the generosity of our sponsors, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, California State Long Beach Antelope Valley Campus, Mojave Air and Spaceport, the Science Olympiad, the Palmdale Aerospace Academy, and Audiovisual Live, who by the way is donating his services for our event today, if everyone could give him a hand. This event would not also have been possible if it weren't for the hard work and dedication by the committee members. Mira Burton, Dr. Khalil Jadani, PJ Delgado, Kathy Hart, Kimberly Mavers, Randy Scott, Chris Vanderhyde, Diane Walker, and Gary Woodison. Would you please join me in giving them a round of applause? I would also like to take a brief moment to recognize the few dignitaries that we have joining us. We have Lisa Moulton representing Congressman Steve Knight. Representing the Lancaster School District as a trustee member, and Mr. Daniel Coleman with the Antelope Valley Union High School District.
Advanced Manufacturing Initiative out of the California Community College Chancellor's Office, Economic Workforce Development Program. Working directly for a statewide initiative director, Mr. Weichman performs several functions, including STEM curriculum development and assessing emerging industries to determine how California can maximize its economic share for those emerging industries. Prior to this, Mr. Weichman was involved in NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in the Optical Communications Group. First as an intern, and then under contract. Mr. Weichman has a master's in space education from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and a Bachelor of Arts from USC. And has also written 2 books. Mr. Weichman is currently pursuing a doctorate in education in organizational change and leadership from USC. So welcome, Mr. Weichman.
Good morning, everyone. Bit under the weather, but that will not stop the progress here. So, the future we always hear about is in the future, but today there's actually when you look around at the technologies and emerging industries, it really feels like the future is now. And we're going to go through some of those and show you what's already coming and what is to come. So the first one we're going to look at is 3D printers. Most of you, if not all of you, are now familiar with this. This is very commonplace. And from the get-go, there were a number of innovations in terms of what can we do with this technology. And we've gotten so good at it now, we've gone way beyond prototyping to where we can now print food out. We're looking to print medicine, even internal organs. And there's already 4D printing in the works right now. 4D printing is basically 3D printing, except what you print out can react to the environment. So you can print out a material and it can respond to heat or to water. And the applications for this are vast. Self-driving cars. This is based on a variety of estimates. You're looking at 4 to 6 years left before we have the first fully autonomous driving vehicles. And it's going to be a massive game changer for our society. Consider now you don't have to essentially waste your time in a car. It becomes leisure time, you can work in a car, and already the first generation self-driving vehicles outperform humans. Consider that. It already outperforms, and this is just the beginning of what's to come. It will just get safer and better. Space travel, very appropriate place to have this discussion. So Mojave, California, about 45 minutes from here, we have the Mojave Air and Spaceport. That is the beginning of the private commercial spaceflight industry that will actually take people to space, starting out at suborbit, but eventually we're going to be going to places like to the moon, circumlunar trips, eventually landing and onto Mars. Underwater living, kids love this. When you take this into elementary school, it just mesmerizes them. And yes, we have already developed underwater habitats. There are plans to have massive locations underneath where we can live there. And I have a brief video to show you of one of those places, a little restaurant, and just sit back and enjoy the possibilities of what could be. Access space at a reasonable cost. And incredibly, you have now people as young as being in elementary school now participating in building and having these satellites launched. And it's just an incredible bright future in terms of what we can do with this technology at the cost that we can do it at. So smart manufacturing, this is a recently new phenomenon in the sense of just how amazing it now is, where we've gotten this. So smart manufacturing is basically embedding sensors throughout the entire production line, from the very beginning when you get started on it to when you actually are using the product. And the example I want to give is cars. So if you're driving a car and something happens, say there's a manufacturing error. With smart manufacturing technology, the sensors will relay information back to the home base to let someone know that, hey, there's a problem with this part. And what that means is that the assembly line can then have the adjustments it needs to be able to take corrective action simultaneously. You're harnessing quantum phenomena to store and transmit data. And in effect, it is a massive resolver to how do we process all this data, which we're going to talk about in the next few slides. And the applications for this are just incredible and necessary because as our technology has gotten better, more data has become part of the mix, and we're not sure what to do with all of that because there's so much now. One of the areas that we're seeing this issue is in bioinformatics. Basically, you go and get your body scanned. Because things have gotten so much more specific, that generates a lot more data. And what are you supposed to do with that data? How do you process it? How do you use it? So the interconnectivity of this discussion is that all the things we just talked about, it's all data driven. You have sensors in everything, and sensors generate data.
So basically, we have deficiencies that have already been established.
We have deficiencies right now because of all of this data, which is actually a good thing in the sense of we're advancing our technology in a number of areas, but we don't know what to do with it. Data is only good if you can actually use it and use it in real time. And so that leads to one of the big issues is cybersecurity. This wasn't always an issue for small and medium-sized businesses, but it is now. Anyone who says that you have valuable data, or if you have valuable data, anytime your data becomes valuable to somebody somewhere, it needs to be protected because that data has monetary value. So in terms of what drives this future and what we're going to see, it is science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM, that drives this future. This is what delivers a better tomorrow. And one of the things that when I give these talks or speak with people is that somehow if you are a proponent of STEM, that somehow you're against arts, and that's the furthest thing from the case. More than anything else, STEM is critical to our foundation because science is what drives our civilization and its development. And I have a brief video to show you that kind of gets to the heart of that matter about why science and math are so important to our society.
When I think of science, I think of a truly human activity. something fundamental to our DNA, something that drives curiosity.
The pipeline directly to the industry or retraining workers. So it's important that we take into account what is going on at the community college level in addition to the obvious what's happening at the K through 12 and the kind of research and offerings at the university level. So is our role, more than anything else, whether you're in STEM or not, we all are in positions in some way, shape, or form where we can affect positive change with people. And that's something that gets lost by the wayside in this big thing of life, but it matters, especially when you have interactions with children. It's very important to make sure that you build them up, that you help guide them along, and give them a vision of a better tomorrow. So in terms of what's to come, just a few things, some amazing stuff. Obviously, AI is coming, and contrary to what a few notable people have said, no, it's not going to kill us all. Nanites are going to be amazing. These are little micro machines that we can put into our bodies that we can basically program them to seek out, say, cancer cells or flu or cold, anything that is wrong with us, and these little machines can go and target that. It could be one of the ways in which we end sickness. Let's see. We've got, this is interesting, bioluminescence, basically using algae, using nature to power light bulbs, which is pretty neat. Genetic manipulation, also called genomics, is going to be a big one around the corner. And carbon nanotubes. Carbon nanotubes are built through a nanotechnology process, and it's a material that is just remarkable. It's thousands of times stronger than steel. It can withstand higher temperatures and pressures, and what we can do with this material will just be remarkable in the future once we can mass produce it at a cost-effective price. We can make it in the lab right now. Scientists have already made them, but it's very difficult to make and very costly. So with that, I hope you've seen a glimpse of a better tomorrow, and thank you for taking the time to listen, and hope you all have a wonderful morning. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Thank you. My name is Dwayne Robertson. I'm from Lancaster High School. I am the Academy Coordinator for our LAMP Academy. And in the LAMP Academy, we have two different pathways. We have the Media Arts pathway, and we have the Engineering pathway. I have 4 students here that hopefully you guys will interact with when you get a chance. Excuse me. In the LAMP Academy as well, we infuse programming into both of our pathways, even in the media side, in the media arts side. One of their first entry-level classes is a intro to computer science class that they have to take. And then, of course, in our engineering and robotics classes, programming is already infused in there. Okay. We are a linked learning STEM academy. Linked learning has basically 3 parts. Linked learning is for academic and technical rigor. Work-based learning, which all these young students here and even back at ADC, when you guys interact with them, that is work-based learning for them. And then individual student support. So that's the basis of linked learning. And we are a certified linked learning academy, which we're very proud of. This is our setup over here. We have our after-school engineering and robotics booth set up here. We have Mary, who's representing robotics, team 399. Then we have LaKayla over here. She has been in media arts since she was in 9th grade. She's a junior now, so she's a 3-year academy student. And then we have Jillian here, who is in the engineering pathway. This is her 3rd year as well. She's a junior, so she's been in engineering for 3 years. And then we have Nikolai, who I'm going to introduce to you. He's in our after-school class that we just started. This is our 2nd year. We partnered with NASA, and we call it the UAS class. So without further ado, Nick has been up since 3 o'clock. He couldn't sleep because he knew he had to do a presentation.
It's not wrong, I've been up since 3 in the morning. But hi everybody, my name is Nikolai Correa. I'm a junior at Lancaster High School, and I'm currently enrolled in the NASA LNHS UAS collaboration class. Now, I know you heard NASA in the name as he introduced me, but the NASA part of this is that NASA has developed a system to make autonomy 100% safe. And have anybody seen the Jetsons?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure everybody's seen the Jetsons in here, right?
Yes.
Remember that flying car that they have? Yeah, they have a flying car that doesn't hit anything, surprisingly. And that kind of baffled my mind when I was a kid, when I first watched it. And that's what NASA kind of noticed, that that car never hit anything, or a flying car. So NASA wanted to do that. So they developed a system that allows you to put it into an aircraft and make it 100% safe. So you no need to worry about maybe crashing into something or having to force land itself. That's the NASA part of it. Now let's talk about LNHS, the school that I'm currently going to. LNHS part of it is pretty much trying to demonstrate that to people. So our main goal is to have anybody, young or old, come up and fly maybe a plane or a drone or something in that matter without any flight experience previously. So we want to be able to fly this around and use maybe our arms and have perfect, well, semi-perfect, be able to fly. I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. But that's the LNHS part of it. And we want to collaborate with more people, pretty much, and NASA has been able to do that. NASA's been opening up doors to LNHS to allow us to extend our learning academy. And I'm pretty grateful about that. Now, if you want to know any more about this, please come to my booth and I'll be more than happy to explain what NASA's doing, what LNHS is doing, and what UAS stands for, if you want to know any more information. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Fernando Cortez. I'm a 7th grade STEM teacher at Fulton and Osbury. It's a fairly new academy. We're about 2 years in existence. It was created by the fusion of Discovery School and Lincoln School. We're from Lancaster School District. These are former middle school students of mine. They're 7th grade students. They're still in middle school. They're 8th graders, but last year they had the opportunity, the honor, to participate in a STEM challenge. And they're going to talk to you about it, and when you get a chance, go see us at our table. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Crystal Chavez, and I'm just here to talk to you about the Medal of Honor challenge that we as 7th graders fixed. So we were, right off the bat, we were given a packet from Edwards Air Force Base that contained this challenge where we had to build this monument, basically, for these 5 different wars, for these recipients, basically. And we began making designs and drawing designs, 2D designs, that we were going to submit. And we had to fit in these constraints. And in the packet that we have, that you can see at our table, the constraints that Edwards Air Force Base gave us basically had things like for safety, for safety and accessibility of our monument. And we were facing off against these other high schools, and we were the only middle school. And we were doing this challenge, and
Good morning, my name is Andrew Alvarez. I'll be talking about our process and experience on Autodesk. So first, as we got our packet, each student began doing individual research on a recipient of the Medal of Honor award. And then we began designing, in both classes, we began designing designs, little prototypes for the Medal of Honor memorial. After that, we narrowed it down between both classes to what we wanted for our design. And then we focused on creating our 3 main components of the memorial, which is the the base, the motif, and the pyramid, which the pyramid represented the perfection of the award and the soldiers who have gotten it. And through this, after we've created our final design, we made 3 teams: the video team, the essay team, and the Autodesk team.
Hello, my name is Michael Southworth, and I'm an 8th grader, and I was one of the members of the video team. So me and the team sent a video to Edwards Air Force Base trying to sell our idea of what we wanted the monuments or memorial to look like. And to do this, we really had to dig deep into what Medal of Honor is and what it meant to receive the Medal of Honor, and we came up with 5 words that we believe that every Medal of Honor recipient showed in battle and they were portrayed as. We came up with courage, valor, patriotism, loyalty, and sacrifice. And those are all, we believe every Medal of Honor recipient portrays those because they are one of the highest forms of patriots that our country has created. And we really wanted to show that in our video, so we elaborated a little on it, and we represented that we put it into our design. And every part of our design and our model, it each represents a piece of what Medal of Honor means, whether it's strength, whether it's perfection, and whether it's courage. We wanted to accurately portray that. And yes, that's all I have to say for now.
Hi, my name is Jatai Tucker, and there was a team of writers, and I was a part of that team, and we submitted our essay, which was 3 pages long, to the Medal of Honor Challenge. And the essay consisted of a little information about one recipient, whose name was Mary Edwards Walker, and she was the only woman recipient. And then we also gave a little more information about our model. And as Michael shared before, the base, which has words like courage, valor, and sacrifice, would describe the characteristics it takes to be a Medal of Honor recipient. And then the second component was the bar motif. Originally, we just wanted to have bars to represent our togetherness. But we were reminded of the safety that it takes, and we knew that little kids, they would get their hands stuck in there or something. So instead we took the bar motif and we had the bars engraved. And then the last and third component was the pyramid itself. And it had the plaque and little model airplanes from the wars. And it just had the Medal of Honor recipients' names on it. That's all I have to say.
Well, thanks. Well, I hope you guys know that Danny Blazell from the Flight Test Historical Foundation is here tonight. So he, I'm sure, would love to talk to you about your they're the ones that commissioned.
I wanted to add, they forgot to mention that out of all the schools that entered the challenge, Fulton-Ellsbury Academy took the first place, and their design that you see on the table here will be built at the outside of the Edwards Air Force Base at the new museum site, which will start construction on next year.
For just a second, the Bob Johnstone Award is normally presented at the annual fundraising dinner for the Palmdale Aerospace Academy. However, this year the recipient was out of town and he wasn't able to make the dinner, and he's a very busy guy, always traveling with his much-deserved retirement. So, Diane, you want to announce?
Sure. It was my pleasure and privilege to nominate Randy Scott for the Bob Johnstone Memorial Award for STEM Education. And as Sarah mentioned, he was not able to be at the dinner. And so we do want Randy to please come up and accept your award. Randy has been involved in STEM education in one form or another for many years while he was the Plans and Programs Director at Edwards Air Force Base Flight Test Center. And he has been the chair of the AV Career Prep Council for over a decade, I believe, and has just been a constant volunteer, supporter, and involved at every level. So we so much appreciate him. He is well deserving of this award, and Randy, please accept it with our great thanks.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and appreciate all the hard work. It's very much a team effort in everything that we do. So thank you again.
So now we're going to take just a short 5-minute break, get up, stretch your legs, grab some more coffee, and then we will get back to our programming shortly.
Things coming around the Antelope Valley.
Oh, that's great. Did you expect to win this?
No, I was nominated, and like I say, they said unfortunately I couldn't make it to the April ceremonies. We were gone, so very honored that they presented it here. Thank you very much to everybody.
Who won it in the past? Do you know? Do you remember?
The first year we presented it to basically to Bob himself, and we named it, you know, in his honor and presented it. And we had a kind of a presentation as far as all the things he had done. And
Last year was Diane.
Diane Walker won last year. She's a very deserving recipient also.
And Bob, refresh the public's memory about Bob Johnstone.
Oh, he spent many years at Edwards. I worked with him for probably 30 to 40 years. Spent many years at Edwards, was very involved in education outreach, especially after he retired, and actually started out with the Math, Science, Engineering, Technology Consortium, which has turned into the AV East Current STEM Network. He was a part of making that happen. He's been was very innovative, brought Project Lead the Way to the Antelope Valley. There's many schools that are using that. So yeah, I'm very honored to receive something like that in his name. He did a lot, pioneered a lot of things all throughout the Antelope Valley.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Colleague and friend of mine from Southern California Edison, Kenny Herrera has had 38 years of experience in the electric utility industry at Southern California Edison. He's currently managing the environmental compliance for Facility North Section for SCE's Environmental Operations Division, comprised of 500 plus facilities, including power plants, substations, service centers, and office complexes. It's a huge job, and he's doing a great job. Kenny has held leadership positions on special teams with the Transmission Distribution Business Unit, we call it TDBU, Power Delivery, and Engineering and Technical Services Departments. He's experienced and knowledgeable in high voltage electrical, generation, transmission, substation construction and maintenance, system operations, and of course environmental health and safety, and has demonstrated experience in the development and implementation of transmission and distribution work methods, policies, procedures, and practices. Kenny is knowledgeable in regulatory requirements regarding environmental health and safety compliance. He has a proven ability to solve complex environmental issues, and he possesses a great track record in safety with a high respect and reverence for nature and the environment. He has successfully managed SCE's transmission distribution business unit 24-hour emergency response, big job when Edison has something go down, and oil spills, and he did that for 11 years as well. He is a California State Certified Incident Commander in the Incident Command Systems and Emergency Management for the company, and is a tenure member of the Environmental Studies Advisory Board at UC Irvine. Kenny is married, has 3 adult children, 3 grandchildren, and he spends his time enjoying his passions in music, martial arts, and traveling. Kenny, welcome.
Well, good morning, everyone. I see so many familiar faces. It's just great to be here, and I'm really excited about the program and what you're doing. And I'm a local kid that grew up in the Antelope Valley. And my job, I never knew I'd even work for Edison. I just wanted to be a rock and roll drummer. And then I got into martial arts. Somebody wanted to beat me up one time, so I started studying that. And then I came off the road and decided that I needed a real job. So I went to work for Southern California Edison up on the Angeles Forest at Vincent Substation, and found a whole new exciting world in technology and science that I never really knew existed. I went back to school in the Antelope Valley College. The Antelope Valley, for you young folks, offers so many wonderful advantages. that other folks don't have the opportunity. We have a tremendous aerospace and Edwards Air Base out here, so you're seeing planes flying and talk about innovation all the time. And the air's clean, and you don't have to pay to park up here. And you can see desert and mountains and just have such great opportunity. It's a great environment to learn and to study and discover all the cool things that are up here. I got into substation operations and just found out that electricity is probably the greatest invention of the 21st century. Our economy, our healthcare, our banking industry, our security, it all depends on that infrastructure of electricity. You wouldn't have all these innovations that you have today without back behind the meter electricity. So Southern California Edison, the pioneers that built Big Creek and all these transmission lines, and much like the pioneers that built New York and the big bridges and these wonderful towers and buildings, they worked really hard and it's very dangerous. So I've heard you all talk about safety. That's our #1 thing at Southern California Edison. And last year we finally made it one of our values as a company. You got to be safe. Everybody's got to go home safe every day. So when you're engineering and you're innovative, when you talk about jumping out of a balloon from way high in the sky, parachuting down, you have to think about safety #1. So everything that you do when you're involving the STEM products into innovation, you have to have that safety #1. The next thing that in the system of thinking that I push on my folks is that you got to be not only safe, but you got to be compliant. You got to follow the rules. And in the regulatory world, there's a lot of rules. There's federal rules, there's state rules, there's county rules, there's local ordinances. So the challenge is finding out whose rule book that you're playing by, and then really make sure you follow that. And then on top of that, you have your company policies and procedures that you have to do. So it can be very complex when you're solving problems. The other thing is push the envelope. Don't take everything at face value. Look at it from a different lens. Ask a different person. You have a lot of variety in seniority in the room today, from young 7th graders all the way to retired folks. It's just like your family at home. You've got your grandparents and mom and dad and the kids, and they're all relevant. They all bring a different experience. And in teachers, the same thing at your institutions and schools and businesses. This is the integration and the value of a diversity in the team, because they bring a different lens and perspective as you're doing things. The last thing in this critical line of thinking is bring value. And that's value to not only if you're in private business like Southern California Edison, a privately owned utility, you have to make money. But bring value in for society that you talked about, and bring value in preserving our planet and the water, the shortness of water supply that we have, and the clean air. So all of your innovations, keep those things in mind. Safety, compliance, being safe, playing by the rules, and that third component, bringing value to whatever you do. So my experience with engineers is that they're really smart people. And sometimes, there's introverts and extroverts. You got to be a blend of both to really be successful today. Because just like engineers come up and they have to do presentations, I used to be extremely scared to get up in front of a crowd and play music. I like to hide behind my drums. It's a little more safe. So I'm working on teams. It's so important that you can interact with people. So those soft skills are really important, and those values. Integrity is so important, that you're honest and you tell the truth, and that you express those ideas. When you're a team member right now, you're our future leaders. And it's so important to create an environment for your leaders and your workers through the teams where they feel free to express their ideas, and create that environment where because that person sitting there that's quiet, they might have that next great idea and innovation that you're looking for. So create an environment where everybody feels safe and they're free to express their ideas. It's just so important like that. And although you may not use their idea at this point in time, you might use it later in the future. So those soft skills and teamwork is just so important. It's just a value and a tenet in our company. Respect. Respecting all the prior folks that got you there. You're going to be, a lot of you young kids are going to be starting at companies here, and you're going to go in, you're going to have that next great idea. But respect the fact that teacher that you talked about that's been there for 20 years doing it a certain way, they did the best they can with what they had to work with. budget-wise, resource-wise, and everything evolves. What's so exciting right now is we're going through a revolution in the power industry, unlike never before. The governor has set renewable goals. It was at 30%, 40%, 50% now. Our company announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to get 80% renewables. The employees are like, oh my God. It's a big challenge. So 80% renewables, that means wind, solar, hydropower is what's going to power our grid in the future. Okay, off of fossil fuel and nuclear and all the rest of the stuff that's available out there. So it's quite a challenge. We're up to the challenge. The other exciting thing is the Olympics are coming to Southern California in 2028. They solidified that in September. So all that infrastructure, I don't know if you folks have seen the plan, but the new Ram Stadium is going to be the showpiece. Yep. And they're designing electric rail to LAX and to John Wayne and to Long Beach and to Ontario and to Burbank. So it's going to, the infrastructure is just going to be all electric down there. They want to get 5 million electric cars on the road by 2030. So Edison's putting in the infrastructure for the support with that. So it's exciting times in the industry right now, and behind the meter we're going to have to we're putting solar farms. And another exciting thing now is a lot of the jobs that you're going to have don't even exist right now. 5 years ago, my job did not exist. I don't think the robotics department was there at my school when I was in high school. Everything evolves and changes, and the workforce has to adapt and change to do that. So not only learning science, technology, engineering, and math is important, but also learning how to be flexible and adapt and work on teams and be creative and be able to adapt to these environments and situations. Leadership is very huge. It's very huge. Companies want leaders because, especially with the baby boomers leaving over the next few years, there's a lot of opportunity for young leadership in there. So it's a really exciting time in the power industry right now. I've got some slides I want to talk about, some careers. I'm going to hit the green button so I can't see too well. So, can you hear me? Yes. I'll talk a little loud. Edison, we've got 11.5 billion in assets. So big company like this. Our core earnings are 1.3 billion a year at the private utility. Thank you very much. Our full-time workforce is about 12,000. It was up to 23 at one point. We cut that back. We hire a lot of contractors. You're going to see a lot of the trucks running around out there that say authorized Edison contractor. We find that's a real good approach because it's hard to keep up with the learning curve and train this workforce to be safe. Our women, minority, veterans, we spend a lot in that whole area. We're really a diversified company with that. About 41% of our spend goes to the minority and women, disabled veterans. So that's important. We want the money to go back in our communities that we serve. The grid of the future. As you can see, solar panels are huge, electric vehicles, the charging stations that we're putting in. Has anybody been in a Tesla?
Yes.
The new cars? I mean, they're so exciting. A friend of mine's got one. I went in, and you know, if he plots, if he went from LA to Las Vegas, and tells exactly where the charging stations are, and how long he needs to be there. I mean, technology, those innovations are just amazing. Our Tehachapi energy storage. We've partnered with Tesla, Southern California Edison has, and it's pretty exciting to talk about innovation. One of the big drivers of environmental in Southern California is the air quality, where businesses are really pushing the envelope trying to improve the air quality. And it's gotten worse over the past 2 years in Southern California. Utility companies used to be one of the big polluters of it, but not anymore. Transportation is the highest one. That's why the push for electric vehicles, to get those diesels and gasoline engine cars off the road that are polluting. So one of the things that we need is extra power in the summer for the peak demand. So we have peaker plants that we positioned all around Rosamond Beach and around. And one of the things when you first start up a diesel engine, you're going to find those are gas-fired plants, but when you fire them up, they get some emissions because they have to warm up so they can burn it all off. One of the things that we did, we got a team together and we partnered with Tesla, so now we put batteries in there. So it keeps them hot, so as soon as they fire up, there's no emissions anymore. So that's innovation right there. Advanced technology, we have a whole advanced technology department there. They built a little street with homes of the future, what they're going to look like. They're going to have solar panels and roofs in them. They're going to have Tesla power walls to store several days of energy in there, recirculating water pumps, and just all these really cool innovations that are going on in the utility industry. I saw recently a little wind turbine that's developed in Spain. It looks like a cylinder fan, and it's got like a fabric around it that vibrates and creates electricity to power your home. So just, there's people all around the world that are pushing the envelope that we're partnered with to try and bring a better tomorrow. And then military-grade security. You talked about that with the cybersecurity. We've been victims of that in this country over the past 10, 20 years. People stealing our ideas, stealing technology. That's why other parts of the world can offer products to us at a better price. Because here, our workforce, we want to pay our workforce, and we want to take care of them and have a good quality of life. Everybody around the world has that same philosophy with that. So we want to protect our system. We don't want anybody to hack into the grid and shut your power off, because you know how important your power is to your house. Oh my gosh, my internet goes out for a couple hours, my whole family's freaking out. So we want to make sure that stays up. So I made sure that I had a Spectrum out yesterday, checked all the systems, changed the wiring, bought the extenders, put them downstairs, so we got good internet. I'm not kidding. Be safe. Too many people get hurt in the electric industry. Our company is really committed to do what we can to preserve everybody so they go home each day. That's more important than the work getting done, the widgets being made. So the safety is just paramount. All of you young folks, when you're doing your innovations, you can't cut your fingers off or stab yourself or cut your body up. It's not worth it. So make sure that you engineer that safety into everything that you do. Don't get near the power lines. Don't put metal ladders around it. We're getting into the holiday season. Be safe at home. We tell our folks this. If you got a ladder, make sure it's good. Make sure it's solid when you're hanging your Christmas lights on your house. So many people get injured this time of year. So really be safe. Just really keep that concept in mind in everything that you do. Employee life at Southern California Edison. I've been here several decades now. It's changed over the years. It's gotten better and better. I thought I'd been gone 10 years ago, but it just keeps getting better. And that's what you want out of a place to work. I enjoy getting up in the morning and going to work every day. I know all of you feel the same way, right? So, we have every kind of job you can imagine at Edison. We've got doctors, lawyers, engineers, accountants, computer scientists, environmental folks, biologists, marine biologists, hydrologists, guys, linemen that fly in helicopters and drop them on the lines. It's every kind of exciting job in the advanced technologies there that you can think of. So consider that in your future when you're looking into the job market. We have interns that come in, and that's what's got me excited about the future. These interns come in, they're out of high school and college, do a summer internship, and they've created innovations that some of us never even thought possible. We go into our computers, it takes us a week to generate a report. They can do it in 2 hours now. So the new minds are just exciting that they're growing up with this technology. I was telling somebody earlier, when I was growing up, we had a party line. You pick up the phone and for a short time. My granddaughter today is starting off with iPhone 7 technology. So where are we going to be 10, 20 years from now? Let's just keep moving forward really quickly. Types of positions, everything. Benefits. It's a good company, offers good benefits, 401ks, medical plan, life insurance, education reimbursement. We're real big about education. If you're not getting better, you're getting worse. You got to just keep getting that education all the way into your 80s and 90s. Additional energy-related careers, solar, smart grid, the grid of the future, wind power, energy conservation, how to apply. Keep this in mind for internships later. whole program, it's pretty amazing what they have. They offer scholarships too. We're $40,000 scholarships we're offering right now. I think the deadline to sign up is December 1st. Opportunities by majors, again, very diverse. You can get into almost every type of job you can think of. There's recruitment dates. Questions?
I'm a senior over at Tehachapi High School and the current president of our robotics team. To my left, we have Chloe Shattuck. She is the vice president of outreach. She is a sophomore. We have Mihaela Jockinson. She is a senior on the team. And we have Andre Pena. He is a junior on the team. Chloe is a junior, not a sophomore. I'm so sorry. So we are a NASA home team, meaning we get a tremendous amount of support from NASA, and we get funding from them also, which really helps us for our mission. And our mission is to provide opportunities and open up doors to all the youth in our community. And without the support from all of our industry sponsors, we would not be able to do this. We partnered with Air Force Research Labs to get a grant called the Inspire Grant to get 2 HP Sprout computers, 2 3D printers, and a few Dash and Dot robots to each of the elementary schools in our community. With this, we'll be working with teachers and we'll be having peer mentors with the students, teaching them how to program the Dash and Dot robots and how to use the HP Sprout Pro for their projects in school and introducing them to this technology. With the 3D printers, we're going to be teaching students how to come up with their own models and 3D print those and start getting them engaged in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics at a young age. Because as early as 2nd grade, students are deciding whether they're good at math or science. And then they decide, oh, well, I'm not good at it yet. So they decide they don't like it. And we're trying to change this for them. In middle school, students, a tremendous amount of students, and especially girls, completely lose interest in STEM because the pressures that they're putting on themselves and how other people look at them, they think it's not the cool thing to do. We're stepping away from this and providing as many opportunities as we can to all the students in our school district. We started junior robotics programs. Our first year in 2015, we started with 15 participants from ages 6 to 9. The following year, we increased that from teams for 1st through 3rd graders, 4th through 5th graders, and middle school and freshman students. With that, our recent year, we reached 160 students for a free after-school program, teaching them how to do their own research for real-world problems. This year was the challenge about water. How do we get water? What uses, how do we use water? And they did these researches, they did the research, and they made models based on it. And they learned basic components of engineering. We also go to all the local elementary schools and spend an hour in each classroom teaching kids Hour of Code. So they're starting as young as 6 years old, starting to learn code in the computers for 1 hour, and they can take that not just with us, and they can go home and do it with their parents. So we're not just leaving it at school, they can take some of this home with them too. We wouldn't be able to do any of this without our sponsors. Our junior robotics teams, the 160 students that we're doing our junior robotics teams for, they wouldn't have any funding if it wasn't for the sponsors or industry sponsors that come out and support them, because the youth is our future. And one day they're going to be filling the jobs at Lockheed Martin and at NASA. So getting them at the youngest age possible and to see a dream and start heading for it, that is our goal. And the outcomes show for it too. From our team, we get internships from most of our sponsors. We have people interning at NASA and at Microsoft and a bunch of other amazing companies that sponsor our team and support the youth. Many students, they graduate with some form of engineering degrees, and they take that with them in the real world. We have a graduate from Cal Poly. He started his own company now. So the skills that they're learning from being on our team and the support that they're getting from their industry sponsors really makes a difference in our future. Thank you.
exciting stuff, and go over and check out their, let's see, HP Sprout Pro. Awesome piece of equipment. Next is Tehachapi, no, sorry, that was Tehachapi, Palmdale Aerospace Academy. Local Palmdale.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Alejandro Zuniga, a 6-year STEM student and a 4-year student of the Science Olympiad team at the Palmdale Aerospace Academy, who we are proudly representing today. At the Academy, we design, create, and explore. And in my experience, the Science Olympiad team has fully embodied this motto. What we do basically is compete at the Olympics of Science. And so we cover all fields of science such as biology, oceanography, plate tectonics, chemistry, forensics, invasive species, anatomy, and physiology. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So how our team functions is basically a team member at the beginning of the season would choose an event which they would study, particularly what they are interested in, such as fields that they might be looking at college majors in, or maybe even careers. I, for example, have chosen to study herpetology, invasive species. I've also studied oceanography, plate tectonics, and things like that over my 4 years. And so we are a Division C team, a high school team which competes against other high schools at regionals, and we're happy to say that we have also competed in various invitationals, which we will elaborate later. These events which we compete in could differ from build events to even test events. Test events where we are judged on the academic knowledge of the student of the subject, which are usually about college level difficulty. Build events where the team will have to present a build contraption which will compete the day of competition against other schools' designs. Such designs such as a balsa wood tower, which would have to operate at maximum efficiency, pardon me, and as well as a balsa wood helicopter, which is powered by a rubber band. So we do many of these things and implement all various fields of science. And more to elaborate on how we performed as a team recent competitions is my friend Sophia.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sophia. I'm a vice president of the Science Olympiad team, and I'm a senior, and this is my 2nd year on the team. Last year we had a very successful year in competition. We placed 5th out of 32 teams in the regional competition, and I'm happy to say that we attended an invitational competition, which is like a friendly practice competition of sorts. And invitationals are really useful to us because we get to connect with other teams and kind of make friends with them, and it gives us an excellent learning experience that prepares us for regional competition. Excuse me. Last year we did really well, and we medaled in several of our events. We placed 1st in multiple, and we were the first team, or we were the only team out of the Antelope Valley last year to attend state competition, and which we're really proud of. We did face some challenges along the way, however, as we usually do every year. These include finding time to work efficiently at our multiple events, collaborating with our teammates, and especially working hard to beat our personal records from previous years. So our plan this year is to reach state competition again, and of course place 1st in regionals. That's our goal. So now I will pass it over to Raymond, who will explain more on what we do.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Raymond, and today I want to talk to you guys about the opportunities offered within Science Olympiad. It's more than just a one-dimensional club with different types of science events. It challenges us intellectually and allows us to explore various STEM disciplines. One such example is that we built a vehicle whose sole means of propulsion was electricity. Now, trying to meet the specification, we tackled various types of solutions that we would have never thought of beforehand, such as messing around with programmable microcontrollers, such as Arduino and Raspberry Pi, and also implementing different types of motors that would give our vehicle the type of torque we wanted. This is just but one of the few examples of us implementing STEM principles into our events. And it really shows the impact the Science Olympiad has not just the students, but the way that the students think. Other such examples are us building the balsa wood tower designed to be as efficient as possible, and also designing and programming a robotic arm that would be eventually used to move around pennies.
Good morning.
Wasn't breakfast wonderful this morning?
Yes.
So I'm going to be introducing Chris Klug. I am Mara Burton. I work with the Aero Institute. I am an education specialist.
I do NASA education throughout the different school districts and colleges and universities throughout California, Arizona, Colorado, and Nevada. I'm happy to be here, and I am part of the STEM network as well. So Mr. Klug serves as a senior civilian and technical advisor to the 412th Operations Group Commander in all manning and organization matters, strategic planning, and in administering mission-related policies. After graduating from the University of Michigan with an aerospace engineering degree, he began his career as a flight test engineer with Boeing on the FA-18EF Super Hornet in St. Louis, Pax River, and China Lake, California. In 2012, he started at Edwards Air Force Base here in California as an engineer testing the integration of avionics and weapons on the F-16. In 2017, he was selected as the JSF Air-to-Air Store Certification Lead, where his areas of responsibility included weapons separation and integration with the F-35 for the United States Air Force, Navy, Marines, and foreign partners. After earning a master's degree from Georgia Tech in 2010, he was an avionics flight chief, then the Global Vigilance Combined Task Force chief engineer testing remotely piloted aircraft, such as the RQ-4B Global Hawk. Please put our hands together for Mr. Quick.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. We'll be talking about some of the characteristics of some of the people within the 412 test wing of the Edwards Air Force Base, some of the characteristics of our innovators and what it is that helps them be innovative and contribute to the test mission. Yeah, overall agenda here, so we've already had the introduction, appreciate that. Provide a little bit of context, as innovation can be unique to each group or team or environment or area of expertise. So provide a little context for what we do within the 412 and what we're talking about when we refer to innovation. And that'll form the foundation of the primary aspect of this talk, which is kind of who, what, why, where, when our innovators in. And I'll have a little time left for questions at the end. Okay, so a little bit about me. We already had that covered, I think. I'll talk a little about the innovation team up at the 412 Test Wing. The commander up there, Brigadier General Schaefer, has made this a priority starting about 2 years ago. And having leadership involvement with innovation and having that strong push as well as putting funding behind it has had a real impact on our organization. So it's been active for about 2 years there. There's about 15 people on the team itself, and they dedicate about 10% of their time to this. Now that team is not the folks, or not necessarily the folks doing the innovation, but rather that's the team that helps those with the innovative ideas work through our processes and get the resources that they need to realize their intent. We've also conducted a few of these benchmarking trips. We've gone around and talked with whether it's companies or organizations or universities that are doing some very innovative things and trying to understand what it is that they've done so we can pull those lessons learned out of them and hopefully not reinvent the wheel and incorporate their lessons learned into our process. And that has helped us in these past 2 years get ahead of that curve. And that has really been an exciting opportunity for the people that go on these trips. It's eye-opening to see something occurring in a field that's similar to yours, but they're doing it differently. That can be tremendously eye-opening and very helpful to see the world from a little bit different point of view. We've also had commanders' challenges, which that's a commander says, hey, look, I have this problem. Put a team together, a diverse team together, go look at it. And those have been some exciting opportunities to reach out to robotics teams and people that are not traditionally within our organization. We brought in some outside speakers and have collaborated with some partners as well. The active number of innovations right now is in the low double digits that we're doing right now. So we have about a dozen of those ongoing, which is provided us with a fairly rich environment to learn how to innovate in the future. Okay, so in that context, this is a definition of innovation. It is not the definition of innovation. I think there are many out there. But we describe it as a discontinuous improvement with some risk of failure. Now that's fairly specific because if we already have a continuous process improvement infrastructure in place. We have teams that do this. We have processes that facilitate it. We have resources dedicated to it. So while we embrace the CPI, or continuous process improvement, when we're talking about innovation, we're talking about something a little bit different. We're looking for those discontinuous jumps in improvement, and then some risk of failure. If there's a discontinuous improvement with zero risk of failure, that's an easy sell. Just go do it. Well, where we run into some challenges just within our organization is when there is risk of failure. We have a risk-averse culture. And some of that is for a very good reason. We are doing developmental flight tests. Some of these things are first-time events. We have pilots in the cockpit with rare or unique assets, and we cannot afford to damage those or lose them or injure pilots or lose those pilots. So we are very risk-averse in some aspects of our job, and we need to be. But in other aspects of the job, we can accept a little bit more risk. However, that is not ingrained in all aspects of our culture, so the innovation team will dedicate resources where the rest of the organization wouldn't necessarily do that. And you can kind of see that green line of probability of success. There's no numbers on that for a very good reason. The top could be, your probability of success is 1. It's actually going to happen. The far to the right part could be 0. Or you could be going from 0.999 to just 0.99. That's still a very high probability of success, but you just accepted an order of magnitude more risk, which for a risk-averse culture is something we don't naturally do. But that is kind of where we're at in some aspects of our organization. We're literally going from, there's like a 1 in 1,000 chance this won't work to 1 in 100, and that blows people's hair back, and we're willing to fund those things. And we've had some successes with that. That second bullet about being a people versus process driven, innovation is an inherently people-based phenomenon. That while we can have processes that help us realize some of the vision that people have, we can't write an instruction or a checklist that says you will do these 7 things and 10% better innovations over there. It just doesn't seem to work that way. And that can be a little bit of a philosophical shift based on the kind of organization you're in. And often we're one of those organizations where we are undergoing that cultural shift. Okay, so getting into the heart of the speech here, talking about these characteristics. Now, this is not intended to be an all-inclusive list, but rather the observations that, at least that I've had in my time on the innovation team, and it's been a tremendous opportunity and honor to work with some fairly brilliant people and tackling some very difficult challenges and done some very interesting things. And I'll just say up front, a lot of it is surprising. A lot of the preconceptions I had going into this were just wrong. I'll get into some of the specifics of the history. So who innovates? Well, we're the Fort Hill Test Wing. We do tests. We're very STEM heavy, and there was initially a kind of preconception that that's what the engineers will do, and that while it's true that many of our engineers have come up with some very impressive innovations, innovations have come from people throughout our entire organization. It is agnostic of education level. I think there's a preconception as well. Oh, boy, these people with advanced degrees are probably going to know some of the best stuff, and some folks with a high school degree, I'm not so sure what they're going to do. That is just, it's wrong. Innovations have come from throughout our organization, independent of education level, gender, or grade. By that I mean, this person's further up the chain, he gets to see all kinds of stuff. They must be able to come up with some brilliant ideas. And some of them do, but people further down the chain also come up with some of our best ideas. It's job agnostic as well. Typically, these people that have done some fairly interesting innovations are persistent and passionate. Now, part of that persistence, I think, it may be unique to our organization. I don't know. But as we do have a risk-averse culture for some very good reasons, we want to remain risk-averse in the right areas. As they try to break through and get to other parts of the organization to accept a little bit of risk on something that we're not putting life in danger, has been challenging. So that requires a lot of persistence. As far as the passion goes, if you don't have a passion for what you're doing, I think that's almost universal across doing anything that's great and interesting. Having a passion is just one of those fundamental things, and that's certainly true within the innovation. That sub-bullet about pursue versus explain inconsistencies. We've had examples where within some of the data we have a system that works very well, but there were some things in the data where people looked at it and go, that's kind of interesting. And I just sort of glossed over it. We had one engineer come along and look at that and go, oh my goodness. Do you realize that we could apply that technology to something completely different, and it will vastly increase the capacity of our test in a particular area? And it took a little bit of money to go prove that out versus just, hey, looking at the data and saying that's kind of strange. But let's go explore that a little bit further. So that's an example of a characteristic of one of our innovators. He was willing to go look at something that other people had kind of glossed over before. It wasn't necessarily straight into the swim lane for something that he needed to be doing. It wasn't his problem that he was solving. But having that passion and persistence resulted in a tremendous test capacity increase for our organization. Tend to be curious people. I think we've heard that a little bit in some of the other speeches, and certainly in my conversations during those breaks. Curiosity comes up. That is a very powerful thing, especially when it comes to the innovation. Part of that has to do with not accepting the status quo. The status quo may be just fine, but the status quo is for our innovators is not inherently just fine. It may be the solution, but they typically want to go look at that, look at alternatives to it. And that may sound like not that big of a deal, but the mentality because we have the status quo and it's working for us, it is just fine. And the mentality of we have the status quo and it is working, but it may not be our optimal solution, it may not be our best solution, it may not be the right thing for the future. It is a tremendous difference. And that last bullet about, again, from a risk-averse culture, failure is usually a very, very bad thing. And so it will oftentimes be avoided. Many of our innovators do not look at failure the same way. They certainly do as far as crashing an airplane or putting somebody's life on the line, but when it comes to, hey, we tried something and that didn't work, but I did learn something from it, it's considered a success. And that is a fairly significant mental picture that can lead to some interesting innovations. Yeah, what do they talk about? It's kind of a good segue from our last slide. The innovators talk about risk and challenges and failures very differently. They do not see risk in not learning if something new will work versus, oh gosh, that might not work out. I'm not sure I really want to put my time and effort into that. Well, go put your time and effort into something that may have a tremendous upside, may have one of those discontinuous improvements. And it may not work out, but what somebody learned in that process has value and may be applicable elsewhere. Passionately take on challenges and opportunities. We have many challenges in our organization, as I'm sure all of you do as well. And focusing on those challenges can be a little bit seductive. We solve our problems. There are also opportunities that tend to come up, and opportunities tend to be fleeting. Some of our innovators have been quick to recognize that, hey, wow, there's an opportunity there to collaborate, but we need to do it now. We don't need to put this in our action plan for next year. We need to do it now. And they will jump on board and see those opportunities. Usually at a little bit of an expense to themselves. They're taking on additional workload, and most of them are usually busy anyway. So they're willing to go do those kinds of things. Tend to be very optimistic about opportunities. Change is hard, right? Change is always scary. Oh my goodness, something's going to shoot. That tends to be a natural reaction. Most of our innovators do not react that way to that. They usually see the silver lining, as it were. Oh wow, this is an opportunity to go make something happen that I couldn't make happen before. And they talk very realistically about possibilities. That just because we found a negative, we found a reason something may not work out, is not a reason not to do it. They're usually very open about stakeholder positions as well. Meaning that when you find this interesting when we talk to someone about getting them the resources that they need to realize their innovation, they'll tell you flat out, like, this organization thinks it's great, these guys are completely against it. They think this is a terrible idea, and here's why they think that. They're usually very tuned into what's going on. But again, just because something may be a challenge or may not work or someone doesn't like it was not a roadblock to them. It was simply a fact that they needed to be worked with. Where innovations tend to fall. The seams of an organization, this may take a little bit of an explanation. All organizations are going to have seams because organizations are structured by definition. It's an organization. So the seams are areas without established organizational constructs. Activities in here tend to be ignored, which is kind of why many of these innovations tend to fall into the seams of the organization. A litmus test is how you identify a seam in your organization. You go say, who does this? Like, oh yeah, the group over there. You go talk to them, and they're like, well, sort of, but we're not going to do that because it's either doesn't make their list of things to do, it's lower priority, or it's not exactly what they're doing, or it requires two organizations to work together in a way that they have not worked together before. These are those seams of the organization. Innovators tend to thrive in these areas. And a little bit of that, I think, is because it's unstructured. And our innovators tend to operate very well in unstructured environments. They're able to get outside of their traditional swim lane. This is what I do, that's what somebody else does. They're able to look across that and work effectively. And if you have any kind of more of the management types in the room, you look at, oh boy, things are going out, it seems my organization is, that's pretty scary. I'll offer that it is actually a great way to learn about your organization. What your organization does very well, what it doesn't do at all, or maybe what it doesn't do as well as it could be. And so innovators will usually be able to explain or tell you about your organization, tell you things about your organization that you probably didn't know. I've certainly found that to be the case. It's in my opinion. So this first bullet is one of the two foot stompers. If you take anything away from this speech, this is one of the two. Innovators view their time differently. You will oftentimes hear, well, she could innovate because she has some extra time. Yeah, yes, he had to do that cool innovation because he's not as busy as I am. And that may have grains of truth, but if you look at it a little bit more closely, that usually means that the person that did the innovation simply prioritized the different thing. That it isn't their spare time. They chose to make the time to go do it. And the reason I say that is that in almost every one of our big innovations, the person started off with, hey, look, I need people from across the organizations to come together and help us solve this problem or take advantage of this opportunity. And it was like quarantine. You couldn't get anybody to go. Or you get 2 or 3 people. Or in one other case, we had a pilot that was doing something very interesting. They'd be like, that's great, but no, I don't have time for that. And then they did it through tremendous effort, Herculean effort on their part. And it was cool, and it worked, and it kind of blew everybody away. The second time they tried to do it, standing alone in the room. One was more of a video teleconference, we were geographically separated. We ran out of lines, and the people that thought that was great and didn't have time for it, those rooms were packed, those folks were there. It is statistically possible that they were really busy on the first day and not as busy on the second day, but that's unlikely. People make time for the things that they prioritize. And innovators simply prioritize things that others typically don't see as important the first time around. The second point about grounded in the present and focused on the future. It is very rare to hear somebody that's coming with an innovative idea look at the world around them and then just dwell in the past. They usually look at the past and appreciate the history and learn from it in order to apply it to the future. And that's, I'll expand on that just a little bit. Very rarely do you hear somebody say, well, yeah, we tried that 10 years ago and it didn't work, so we should definitely not do that now. That it never comes out of an innovator's mouth. 10 years ago they tried this, it didn't work, here's why, here's what's changed, and here's what I think we can do to actually make it work this time. It's just, it sounds like a slight difference, but in practice it tends to be a tremendous difference. I realize their vision is to help cage some of those expectations. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, it's just something to be aware of. And personally, I'll take optimism over pessimism anytime. Okay, the lies in the house. This is the second, top bullet is the second thing. If you take anything away from here, this is the second thing I'd like you to take away. Innovators see new ways to apply existing technologies. We have yet to have an innovator come up and invent something. In every case, they've taken something that already existed and applied it someplace else to solve a different problem, challenge, or take advantage of an opportunity. Whether it was hardware or software, we had one innovation where a guy, one of his hobbies outside of work, he's like, hey, for a very small dollar amount, we could actually create a test capability that just didn't exist before. And it was a very low dollar amount, I'll leave it at that. And it had more than an order of magnitude cost savings on the other side. Because we were able to save a particular asset that the cost of that asset would have not allowed us to test it the way that we did. So we improved not only our ability in terms of capacity, but also the capability to test something that we weren't previously able to test. We tested an analogy to it and then applied it. So that created a better test. And he took something from his hobbies and applied that to something at work. It was a low-cost, low-tech solution. Also been able to use technologies that were at work differently. I talked a little bit about that earlier. So one of our engineers looked at the data a little bit differently. Oh my goodness, wow, we opened up a tremendous test capacity because something actually did, not only did it do its job, but it could also do other things for us. Also use low tech. There's a propensity to focus on the high tech stuff. Wow, something that's really high tech, very expensive. If you want to innovate in that area, it must be very high tech as well. That's not necessarily the case. We've had examples where we that $20,000 solution we thought we should perfect, when we went through one of those commander's challenges, we learned we could do essentially the same thing for a couple $100. It was kind of surprising. Most innovators don't view that as, oh, I failed in my idea. It was, oh, wow, we learned something new. Let's go take care of that. The last point, innovation is a word that usually management uses. Most of the people I know that do not call what they do innovation. It's just they're doing it. So with that, I will open it up to questions.
Chris, I have a question for you.
Meeting and getting to know Ed Burnett. It's an honor to introduce him. Check this out. Edward Burnett is the Senior Fellow for Modeling, Simulation, and Controls at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics, and is Program Manager for the Multi-Utility Aeroelastic Demonstration X-56A. During his 36 years at Lockheed Martin, Ed has worked on programs including the F-117A, F-22, X-35, and many others. Ed has worked on a wide range of stuff. His experience goes from conceptual design to flight test. Ed is an Associate Fellow of the American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics, and is a member of the Society of Flight Test Engineers and Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. Ed has 2 U.S. patents and has authored more than 15 technical papers. He is a private pilot and a sailor. In 2012, he was part of a 6-person crew of Buena Vista in the Pacific Cup race from San Francisco to Hawaii. Ed has also consulted on several video games, built props for theatrical performances, and worked on special effects for 2 major movies. Please welcome with a round of applause, Ed Burnett.
Morning, and it's normal, being the last person to get up and talk, or near the end. Most of the things I wanted to cover have already been at least addressed, so you're going to have to hear my version of them, which will be slightly different, I hope, or at least more entertaining. I shouldn't say more entertaining. Tweaked is probably the right word. So I tried to look at things from an education standpoint, and so my talk is going to start off by, actually, if I can bring that mic up. Been sitting a little too long, so I need to move it up. So I'm going to start off by talking about how I kind of see the world. I'd like to, if I want to figure out the vector, where we're going to go, I want to look at history. So that's why I want to talk about, yesterday, today, tomorrow. This is where my shameless plug goes in for the museum, the Flight Test Museum at Edwards. If you haven't been there, go up there. It is a phenomenal teaching facility. And as we go to move the museum outside the gate, it's going to be even better teaching facility. I'm going to talk a little bit about educating for today and tomorrow. I went to Cal Poly, so you're going to hear a lot of learn by doing. All right. That's what I use. And then I'm going to give you some of my parting thoughts of how I think we need to help the whole process through. So we look at today's fighter aircraft. The F-22 aircraft, a lot of the pilots will say, gives them the ability to fly with near reckless abandon. But that capability was informed by the F-16 and the other aircraft of that era. A lot of the pilots who tested and developed the F-22 had flown the F-4, the F-5, the F-16, took those lessons learned and we made improvements. That's the vector we want to look at. The people who built the F-16, they flew the F-104, the other Century Series aircraft, in response to what they learned and their fathers learned flying the P-38 and the other aircraft during World War II. They were responding to what was learned from World War I, the Ginny. If you ask an F-22 pilot to jump in a Ginny, he is going to tell you that the airplane is nearly inflight, completely horrendous, atrocious flying qualities. The pilots of the day, the World War I pilots who flew the Ginny, didn't speak that way. Why?
They knew how to fly.
Because they came up with something that had literally a mind of its own. So having something that actually responded, although not necessarily the way you wanted it to, but responded repeatedly, was kind of a neat invention. So that's kind of the path we want to look at. So as we teach and understand how we need to teach for the future, don't forget the past. Another way to look at that, again, going back to the museum, F-104 cockpit. Pretty impressive. A lot of information, or a lot of things there, the dials, the gauges, pretty busy. But the same pilots who flew the 104 said, you know, that's not working as well as we'd like. When we built the F-16, much simpler looking cockpit, we've taken those lessons on. Today's F-35. Lots and lots of glass. Very few things that you got to look at. Data. 104, we gave the pilot a lot of data. F-16, we gave them information. Today, we want to give them knowledge. We don't need to have them with each individual piece of data trying to build a picture of the world around them. We want them to have that picture of the world around them so they can do what they need to do with it. So that's the flow, that's the vector. If you look at manufacturing, manufacturing of yesterday was hands-on metalwork off paper drawings. Very labor intensive, limited by our materials and our tools. However, there's a real craftsman who did this. Can't forget about the craftsmanship that occurred. What do we have today? Heard a little bit about the talk about some of the new technologies. Virtual reality, being able to walk around your three-dimensional design in 3 space, prod up, immediately hit the button, and off comes either a prototype or a finished product off of a 3D printer, 4D printer, many different types of additive manufacturing. Can't necessarily forget about the subtractive manufacturing of yesterday, though. It still is a good technique. So all these VR things mean we actually have to now understand a little bit more about our own physiological reaction to some of these tools, virtual reality. A lot of people will get sick very quickly if you put on VR goggles, so we're learning how to deal with that. Those are the things that we want to expose the future engineers to early, so we can find solutions to that problem. Learn by doing. Cal Poly grad comes out, you need to get your hands on things. When we look at composites, in the early days of the composite revolution, you saw people just doing hand layers. You literally would take a piece of cloth, an epoxy, and you would lay it out by hand. Still very time intensive. You didn't really make the savings that you thought you would by going to this non-metallic subtractive manufacturing. Now we can actually place the individual fibers in the orientation we need through a machine, through a very large robot. And the way you make that thing work is you have to get your hands dirty. You've got to get in there and work with it. So we need to teach through failure. We talked a little bit about this. We have to do it in a safe way, but we have to get their hands on things. Let them play. Even if you're just the technicians of tomorrow who are operating these machines need to know how to repair robots. That's what we need to educate them for. You know, it's one thing to change a drill bit. It's another thing to fix the fiber placement machine that's tending to put the fiber in the wrong place. So the way I like to think about this teaching through failure is, there may be some biology teachers here. One, couple. So I have a belief that, I know you're well-meaning. You teach us that memory is stored in our brain. And I don't believe that's true. I believe it's stored in scar tissue. At least the important things. So getting people those little paper cuts that burned on the stove when you were 3 years old, where you learned what hot really was, those are the things that really impress us as we go through life. So we got to help the students get those in a safe manner in our schools, so they're not afraid when they get in industry and they have to, like Keely's doing here, get her hands dirty with an advanced machine. So we need to expose people to more and different technologies. We hear a lot about the use of things like Raspberry Pis and Arduinos, which are great. We also need to go the other way. The simple technologies, the things that you can do in your home to build a toy to play with. You know, the old 2x4, a couple bobbins from your mom's sewing machine, and pretty soon you have a Tonka car. You know, maybe I was growing up in a very poor neighborhood. I think that helped. We learned how to do things on our own. So, exposing people to those technologies as early as possible, and a variety of technologies. Teamwork, phenomenally important. Having the ability to work with other people. You don't see the airplanes that we're building here in this valley built by one person. It's a very, very large team, and it's not just one company. You know, X-35, we had BAE, Northrop Grumman sitting shoulder to shoulder with us. The next day we're competing. So that gets to the other part of teamwork. We want to make sure that people know what competition is. Let the students compete. Do it in a safe manner. Don't let them brag too much if they won. Actually, some of the competition should be more probabilistic than perhaps just pure capability. But let them have that challenge of trying to win. Give them the goal. And diversity. When I talk about diversity, we have diversity in our experiences. I work in a world that's time domain. I live in a world that's time domain. But when I go to work, most of the math I have to do is in the frequency domain. To me, that's the diversity. So we need to think about seeing things from every different angle, not just the one that may be the most convenient. So keep that in mind. Get out there, look at all the different airplanes. Why are they different? Was it just time, or was there a purpose that caused that difference to occur? And don't forget, going on to my parting thoughts, don't forget the arts. Pretty cool airplane. Several years later, 30 years later, art imitates science, not the other way around. We have to teach them. We have to let people know that that's really where we're going. Got to make sure that as engineers, we change how the world looks at things. And when I talk about diversity, we look at an airplane, and it may appear ugly to us initially. Sometimes the beauty is not in the visual spectrum. It's not beauty to our eyes. In this case, it's beauty to our radar. So that's the diversity you need to think about. What is the beauty for the engineer in the room, the scientist in the room? What should they be looking at before they call something beautiful? So I kept mentioning the need to get students out there, get them to diversity. This is another of my shameless plugs for the museum and what they're doing at Blackboard Air Park during the summers. I think we had over 500 students this last year who came through the summer program. So please, talk to Danny, get all the information. We're going to do it again, thanks to Northrop Grumman and Lockheed. Get students, get them involved early, let them get out there and see who's out there doing engineering, what their possibilities are for the future. If you look at an airplane, it may not have a person in it. There's a lot of neat things you can do with that. But if you have a student that's interested in medicine, look inside the cockpit, you're going to find oxygen, you're going to find all the things that you would find in a hospital, all contained right there in that cockpit, because the person needs to stay alert, capable. There's a lot of diversity in what makes an airplane fly. So, questions?
There's going to be another opportunity to applaud. But I hope that that you're noticing those connections. Yeah, there was sort of some previous stuff, wasn't there? And it all comes together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Gary.
We really appreciate it. And a round of applause for them. The good news is that we're on time. That's awesome. That really puts a burden of responsibility on these last two presentations, doesn't it? Because, wow, they got to stay on time now. We're really excited to hear from some more students and learn some of the things that they're engaged in. And we'll start with the Knight High School Digital Design and Engineering Academy. Come on up.
Hi, so I won't talk to you too much. You can hear from a couple of the kids we brought with us, but our academy is focused on giving the kids the ability to create and learn things and to be innovative in the classroom. We have a makerspace concept that we apply, so we have a space where the kids are able to come in class and after school, and they build all sorts of things. We host a maker fair every year in March where the kids showcase some of the things that they've made. And then we also use that space for a host of different competitions and projects and things like that that the kids do, so that they can connect their classroom learning and projects to greater access in the community and in competitions as well. So the academy begins in 9th grade, where the kids start some of those basic skill building activities, and then it culminates as they go out into the community and they intern with different places in industry here locally, like Northrop. We've had kids out at Lockheed and the different cities of Lancaster and Palmdale both. So, but we also do some special projects. So each of them are going to talk about some of the things that they've participated in and how they've reached out to share some of that ability to innovate as well. And so we'll let you on first? Okay, we'll let Jessica go first.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessica Sweeto. I'm the secretary of the Digital Design and Engineering Academy at Knight High School, and this past summer I was able to volunteer with Global Illumination. It's a nonprofit organization, and we were able to go to Costa Rica, and over there we built a makerspace for the kids over there at that school, and we taught them how to use the laser printer, and I was able to use the skills that I learned here with the academy. I was able to use them over there, and we taught them how to use a laser printer, how to design 3D models and print them as well, and how to use a makey and how to use a vinyl cutter, and they're still using that stuff, and they're going to be coming over here to meet us in January. And it was a really good experience to be over there and to help them learn things that they've never seen before, and that I've had the opportunity to learn and to grow in. So that was really cool.
Hello, my name is Miguel Morfin. I'm the president of the Digital and Engineering Academy. And I had the chance to go to Australia this past September for the Australia competition, UAV. So in that one, we took the drone and added parts to it to, I guess you could say, innovate. We made it better, made the dropping system, and in that we got 6th place, but we were still very close to winning because the G rating that we were supposed to get was under 75, but we had 77.
All right.
So just by 2 Gs. We also had the chance to go to the AFRL AV Challenge, which we actually won 1st place in this October. And as well as, sorry.
So as the kids compete over the years, they've done they've had mixed results. As you saw, he was very close this year. I know that McGill wants to try and go back again next year. He's just a junior this year. Last year, the kids were able to win first place. The 2 years before that, third place. It's in an international competition. Teams from China, Poland, obviously Australia, that's where it's held, but New Zealand, Indonesia, from all over the place. So it's a pretty high-level competition. But the kids are able, in the space of the school, to learn from the very beginning of 9th grade all the way through when they graduate, to get their hands dirty, like we were hearing about today, actually building things and creating things rather than the old wood shop that we did 20 years ago, probably 25 years ago when I was in middle school, where everybody makes the same box that's shaped like a heart and you just follow the steps all the way through. Today we have the kids innovating and creating things where we teach them the skills of the tools, but they are deciding what it is that they create, what it is that they make. And so they can go to that next level and really be prepared to pass on to post-secondary and into careers. And so that's really our goal, and on our banner it says, if you can dream it, you can make it. And that's what we try to instill in the kids, is don't be afraid to get out there and try. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, that's okay too. We'll get there eventually.